professionalism, accountability. The whole real estate industry is built on the idea that everybody's an independent contractor and nobody's accountable, right? Because that's what works for the big brokerages. They don't have to invest in people. I call it aggregation of failure. 85% of agents fail in the first year. The big
Right.
brokerages get in as many agents as they can. 9 out of 10 of them fail, and they pay for everything off of the backs of the 10% who figure it out. It's an
Right.
aggregation of failure.
Right.
And so what does that mean for the client or the investor out in the real world? There's a 90% chance they're going to get hosed. I mean,
Staggering, man. It's
that's
staggering.
that's unacceptable.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Podcast. I'm your host, Micah Johnson. And today I'm joined by Coach Drew Little, who's been making some serious moves in the real estate industry for quite some time now. Coach, welcome in, man. Glad to have you.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think your listeners are really going to take some value away from how you approach the investment industry, specifically working as an agent and also as an investor yourself, what it's done to help you just step that professionalism up that we desperately need in that area of the industry. So let's dive in there. For people who may not know you yet, what's your main focus right now and what markets are you operating in?
So I have a real estate team in Virginia Beach. And so we operate primarily in Virginia Beach and Norfolk right now. And we are looking to expand more throughout the year. That's our main business. And then my wife and I also invest in short-term rentals.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's take a step back real quick. What led you to where you are today to having the current businesses you have now?
Well, I've always been interested in real estate, but I didn't get into real estate when I was young. I started a family young and needed to get a paycheck, and so I ended up in corporate America and was actually doing pretty well. And I had a background in economics, and so when the great financial crisis hit, and I saw all these housing prices tumbling, I knew that this just isn't something that happens. So actually, my background, my degree was in economics and history. So I knew that we weren't going to see something like this again, maybe ever. So that's when we said, okay, we need to start buying real estate because you don't get pullbacks in prices on real estate of 30, 40% ever. It just doesn't happen. So that's when we started investing. And that was fine for, gosh, more than 10 years or about 10 years. We kept working our corporate jobs and, had our investments, and that was great. And then I was able to retire early, partially because of the investing, partially because of a good career. And so I was like, okay, what do I want to do now? And I thought, well, I'll help people invest in real estate, right? It worked for me, it could work for them. And I got into the business and decided to do more than I originally planned to do.
Well, you owned a couple businesses, but prior to that along the way too. So you've
Yeah.
had the entrepreneur bug for quite some time also.
Yeah. So altogether, my partner and I, my wife and I have started 7 businesses together, and I've started 9 total. So yeah, we've done a few.
I heard that, man. Well, what about real estate has created that sticking power for you to be the thing you're focusing on now?
Well, there's just so much to be done. The industry is kind of a mess. There are a lot of people trying things in the industry right now. But coming from a entrepreneurial background, coming from sort of, incubators and tech startups and stuff like this, what I see is there's a lot of things being done in real estate. Even the things to make it better are so far behind where business is in every other industry that there's just a lot of opportunity to improve things.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
What's been some of the focuses y'all taken to improve? What are your major missions right now?
Professionalism, accountability. The whole real estate industry sorry about that. The whole real estate industry is built on the idea that everybody's an independent contractor and nobody's accountable, right? Because that's what works for the big brokerages. They don't have to invest in people. I call it aggregation of failure. 85% of agents fail in the first year. The big brokerages get in as many agents as they can. 9 out of 10 of them fail, and they pay for everything off of the backs of the 10% who figure it out. It's an
Right.
aggregation of failure. And so what does that mean for the client or the investor out in the real world? There's a 90% chance they're going to get hosed. I mean,
Staggering, man. It's
that's
staggering.
that's unacceptable. It's
Right.
unacceptable. And the organizations that get real about what's wrong with real estate and try to fix it have such a huge advantage. We're a very small company, but in our third year, we were voted best of the beach for agent, team, and firm. Four people on the
Man.
team. We beat teams with 500 agents. So that tells you how much service is valued and how little of it there is in this industry. It's professionalism. It's showing up and doing the right things the right way. And I don't necessarily blame agents for this. I mean, everybody's accountable for your own career and learning. But at the same time, if you go to a brokerage that's not interested in teaching you anything, that's not interested in giving you any support, how are you going to learn? It's trial and error. You got to survive. You got to make enough mistakes to live until you figure it all out.
Exactly. Better have a year of income saved up because it
Oh,
it it does.
at
You're
least.
gonna be racking yourself to get it done. And that was coming from Florida, that was one of the things that I found staggering also about the real estate industry, because I got started as a realtor, was n the amount of arbitrage. How many people just fall out? And I was watching it, seeing it like, this is truly a throw the mud at the wall and see what kinda sticks or what sticks kinda game. And
Yeah.
like you're talking about, when 90% aren't good, you're playing reverse Russian roulette at that point. Now you're
Yeah.
playing with a gun that has 5 bullets in the chamber and you got one chance of getting somebody good. And that's something that used to bother the heck out of me. The
It
guy who
bothers
taught my
all agents
race,
who are doing a good job, right?
right,
It
it does
frustrates
because
all of us.
one of the best things I heard in real estate school, I was sitting after, it was an elderly gentleman teaching my class, and he looked at me and I'd ask him all kind of questions because it was going to work. I was leaving the medical field. This was what I was doing. Like no one was going to keep me from being successful. So I was asking a ton of questions, trying to understand. And he sat down with me after class one day. He goes, "Man, I want you to know something. There's no competition in real estate if you're going to show up like you're doing right now. If you're going to show up every day and do your work, knock out what needs done, you will have a very successful career in this industry because nobody does it, man.
Yeah.
Nobody does it. He said, in our class, there's only going to be one of you in our class that are still in real estate 5 years from now. And look at how many classes we're doing a day. right?
Yeah.
There's massive amount of people that fall out, and it runs into that. It's easy to get into, so that's awesome. But because it's easy to get into, it gets some folks in there that
If you're looking for consistent, high quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
aren't really belonging, right? I
Yeah.
watched somebody lose their parents' $250,000 life savings because they didn't know what they were doing. And it's just like, whoa, whoa, this is a big deal, y'all. It's not a hobby. And if
And
you're
it's not a
treating it like
TV
a,
show.
no, it's none of those things. And it's constantly moving. It requires you to be learning all the time. And so, like you're saying, most brokerages aren't setting you up for success. They're hoping you're coming with a large sphere of influence so you can just sell to your friends and family forever. And man, when I was teaching people how to be a realtor, I told them, do not talk to your sphere of influence.
Yeah,
They shouldn't trust you yet. Like,
that's
how
right.
many things they've seen you try and you got in here in a month and now you're saying, hey, come let me sell your stuff. If I was your friend, I would say, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
go
don't
get some
want you
go
messing.
practice on somebody else.
Exactly. Go actually learn how to do this professionally and then come back and talk to me because then I might be interested because I have no desire to be your guinea pig. Nobody does. And that was where I tell folks, like, you've got to actually get out there, break it down into how many conversations you need to have a day to sell houses. There's a mathematical formula for it. And at
Yeah,
that point, man, I would show up to the Gander Mountain in my town and figure out, okay, how long can it take me from getting to saying hello to a stranger to talking about real estate? It's about 5 minutes. It doesn't take long once you master how to talk about it. But that's
yeah,
what drove me. It's like, okay, how do you create these conversations? Like I remember one time I went to a Burger King and it was about 10 or 12 people in there. And I was like, I'm going to buy everybody one of those $1 milkshakes and just say, hey, it's hot in Florida. Hope this helps. And, if you're looking for a house, here you go. Like I was always thinking to myself, how can you just create a conversation anywhere? Because in the end, it's simple to get back to real estate once you learn how to do it.
and so many people wanna be noticed and wanna be talked to, right? I sold a house to a young doctor a couple of years ago. I was in a coffee shop, and she had this hibiscus sleeve tattooed on her arm, right? And I was like, "Hey, cool tattoo." And she's like, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, "Oh, you must work out," because she's
Yeah.
immediately flexing, right? And so,
Right.
we started talking about going to the gym and, hibiscus blossoms because my wife's Hawaiian and all this stuff, and so, and so she became a client, and it was like a 2-minute connection. But, people wear their sports gear, right? It's like, you
Right.
know, you're wearing an
And
Eagles
you feel
jersey, how
and
the
you
Eagles
feel it.
gonna do this year?
Right. Right. And that's what I mean. And you don't have to fake that part. And building rapport with people is much simpler than you think because you're both human beings. Like you're
Yeah,
going to relate somewhere. You don't have to fake relating or push on the fact you're so different. Like you said, people love to talk about themselves. Give them that chance and they'll open up to you. And once they feel heard, they'll listen. Then
yeah,
what you have to actually say matters. I know we've drifted off subject here a little bit, but I think
that's
that's
okay.
important things for folks to know, right? Like it is,
Yeah, I
especially in
mean,
this.
we're just not, you talk about in real estate, you're throwing mud up against the wall to see what sticks. Unfortunately, that mud is people. But that is exactly how most of the big brokerages treat it, you know? They just see what sticks, and they don't even need to find an agent with a huge sphere that's gonna sell a bunch of houses, right? They know that the average person has one person in their sphere who's gonna buy or sell this year. So if they had bring in 1,000 agents that fail, they're still gonna do 1,000 transactions.
Right. Right.
And
Exactly.
that is some terrible, terrible math. But that's how the industry's designed. It's not an accident. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Exactly. They know the statistics. Like
Yeah.
it's known. We know it for sure. And now it's being played to. So on behalf of Realtors and Humanity, my man, thank you for doing it right, for solving that out there. So let's dig back in on the investment side. So there's realtors that work with retail, and then there's realtors that work with investments. And having been one of those people, they are not the same. They're not built the same. The things you need to know are way different because one's running a business and one's helping you buy a house for that you're going to live in. These are two entirely different scenarios. How have
Yeah.
y'all focused there to really set yourselves apart in your market for those types of clients?
Well, so for us, I mean, I like doing retail. I like helping the first time buyer and whatever. Um, I mean, you feel good helping somebody buy their first house,
Yeah,
right? It's a good
right.
feeling.
A happy
But
transaction.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
yeah, but I came into this with a business mindset, with a growth and production mindset, because I'd been in Fortune 500s and started my own companies and all this stuff. And so I wasn't looking to just sort of drift from retail transaction to retail transaction. I was looking to build a repeatable, sustainable business. I was looking to
Mm.
build a process. And so when you analyze the market, the average retail buyer seller does a transaction about every 12 years now. You gotta spend a lot of time in Gander Mountain to fill
Right.
that pipeline.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I started looking where else does the market move? And, this was 21. I really started jumping in with flippers big time. And I still work with all the flippers I started working with, right?
Mm.
I've picked some good ones. There are some flippers out there that I wouldn't work with. If I wouldn't sell their house as a buyer's agent, I don't want to represent their house as a listing agent. Um,
Oh, good rule. Good
so there
rule.
are there are flippers in my market. I won't sell their houses for them. I like them. They're nice guys, but they do bad work, and I'm not trying to put
Mm.
somebody in a bad house.
Right.
So that's just a choice I make. But what that choice meant for me early on is I've now been working with the same set of half a dozen or so flippers almost since the beginning of this company. We've only added one or two in all this time, and then we've added some new dev guys who do great work. But we were looking at scale. How do you scale the business? How do you make it predictable? How do you create something that we can then grow, that we can build in training for agents, that we can expand the company? We're in Virginia Beach now. We'd like to be in Outer Banks and Richmond by the end of the year. You've got to have predictable revenue. You've got to have scale to scale. And
A
so
business. Have a real business.
yeah, yeah, and so that's why we locked onto investors early, and because our interest in investing, my wife and I, is really in short term rentals. We got started working with short term rental investors pretty early as well, um, and that's it. We don't manage Airbnbs. We tried that a few years ago, and we're like, oh, this is too much work for what it pays. To be
I
honest
want
with
to
you,
do.
huh?
I'm tired from stuff I don't like for the most part. I don't want to do
Yeah.
it again.
Yeah, I'm like, "No, this is actually difficult to do." And there are people who do it better and at larger scale than us. So why am I gonna try and reinvent that wheel? You know? In real estate sales, it's different. There's not a lot of really good companies in real estate sales. In Airbnb management, there's a lot of really good companies. They do a great job. So Imma let
Right.
them do it.
I heard that, man. And it's a smart way to do business because as you keep going and you get older and older in your business, you niche down more and more and more. So that you start to realize, man, there's this one thing I can be really good at.
Yeah.
And sure, you can do other little things on top of it, but that main thing's got to stay there for the process and the system to keep working. I always tell Amazon only sold you books for 9 years. That's it. They only sold you a book for 9 years before they sold you anything else. So don't forget the power of that stability, that process, and that system. Because, like you're
Yeah.
saying, that's what's scalable. That's the thing
Yeah.
that you can repeat.
And that's the thing is with the investment side, I have a knack for finding deals. I have a knack for finding value that other people don't necessarily see right away. In 21, 22, everybody's looking for these. Our average housing price at the time was about 350 for a single family. So everybody is like running and gunning, trying to find those properties for 170, 180, 190 that they can then flip and sell for 350, right? Everybody, you know, probably 200 flippers in this market of 1.7 million people trying to buy up all those houses. My clients are their own money. They're not using hard money. So I said, tell you what, let's let everybody else do the speeding frenzy. Let's go find waterfront properties. Let's go find historic homes that, yeah, we're going to pay more on the front end and it's going to take longer. But when we sell them, instead of making 30 grand, we're going to make 150 or 200. Let's go play where other people can't play. And that worked really well for us.
And it's what you gotta do in every market. That's why each part of any market cycle, there's opportunity. You just
Yeah.
have to understand where that opportunity is. We were talking about a little bit pre-recording. New development became one, where that's a
Yeah.
move to make to start making sure that you're hitting the numbers that you need to. Because in the end, the investment side is a numbers game. People are involved for sure, but if it don't pencil, it's not a deal. And finding those markets, I was actually talking to a commercial guy the other day where that's the same concept as what they did in their business. 5 million and under deals have all this racket around them. And institutional buyers have such big funds now that they're not trying to buy deals in the 5 to 25 million range. It's not enough capital. So all of a sudden, this gap got created where, boom, you can just go in and fill it if you're paying attention. And much like the
Yeah.
same thing, okay, there's all this noise of people we're competing with here that are making these not deals, right? You start seeing that I can't buy this and make it pencil anymore. I don't know how they're doing this besides they're just trying to pay their workers to make sure they got work because these aren't
Lots of that.
working. So yeah, so to shift to that idea of, especially when they have their own money, hey, let's go a little more expensive. You have time, look, you got the money. Let's find that project that you're going to be proud of. And in the end, it's going to turn around for more money than we were thinking to begin with.
Yeah, and it's like you have to pay attention to what's going on in the bigger economy, right? People are talking a lot about the K-shaped economy now. And what that means is it's a bigger divide between the haves and the have-nots. Now, look, I want everybody to own a home. I don't want anybody to be left out of the American dream. But when we're talking about investing, if you're investing on the low end, where because of interest rates, people can't get financed, you're going to end up sitting on or losing money on properties.
Mhm.
The fastest selling price point in Virginia Beach is probably about 400,000. Really hard to find flips at that price range. But probably the second highest or second fastest price range is 1 to 1.2 million.
Hmm.
And flippers aren't buying $1 million properties for the most part. So if we can get our investors into those kinds of properties, really anything above 750, we have very little competition and plenty of buyers.
Right. Because they're not affected by the normal market transitions. That's one thing
Yeah.
about higher price properties. That high net worth individual, they play a different game. They're thinking differently when they're buying, and their markets are typically always around. They
And
they can go anywhere and buy a house. They're fishing in a completely different pond. So that shift up, man, it gives you access to something that, like you're saying, most can't get into.
And once you get over $1 million, I mean, lots of people will use a jumbo loan up to about 1 million. But once you deal with people who are buying properties over $1 million, the higher that number goes, the less likely they are to use a traditional mortgage, even a jumbo. They're going to use some kind of other financing tool based on their assets. So they're much less sensitive to interest rates. They're much less sensitive to all the things that have slowed down the lower end of the market. Now, like I say, I want everybody to own a home, and I'm glad rates are coming down, and I'm hoping we're going to see an explosion of home ownership for people in that sort of starter bracket, because that really is the key to wealth for most people in this country is getting started owning a home. And so I want everybody to have a house. But the reality of the investment side of the business the last couple of years has been it's a lot harder to make money in the lower half of the K.
For sure. Absolutely, for sure. I've seen it across the board. A lot of my friends run investment companies around the nation, and it has been some of the toughest 3 years. I remember in 2022 and 2023, I was doing some talks at events about those kind of things. Like, how do you stay in the game? How do you make sure you're playing it right now in a way where what do you need to pivot? What do you need to adjust? The market's done something. I was talking with someone the other day. Truly something we've never seen before. We've never seen homes appreciate that fast, and then we've never seen interest double that fast.
Yeah,
And it put us in a place where, holy cow, what the heck is going on? So it's such a funny time to be in right now. And the ones that are doing well are the ones that are adjusting. They're not just
yeah.
trying to cram square pegs in round holes.
I was talking to somebody about, focusing a little bit more on high end stuff the last year or so. I think we've got a bunch of new dev coming to market, and I think our lowest price point's about 700,000, um, which is, almost double the standard here, right? And we've got a bunch coming in just under a million, because we know they're going to sell, right? And I was talking to somebody about it, and they're like, why are you focusing so much on the high end? And it's like, they asked John Dillinger, why did he rob banks? Because that's where the money is.
Nice. Right.
You know,
Exactly.
you gotta go where you can do business, you know?
If you want to stay in business, that's the key. And it requires that. That's why I always go back to this is a lifelong learning game. It's one of the reasons I like real estate is it engages your mind. You got to think about it. You have to participate in it, especially in a position like yourself when you're working with investors. Having a realtor and a brokerage that knows what's going on, is involved themselves, and can see what's going on and help you with it. That's where what y'all do becomes invaluable. It's where truly where now that professionalism, that expertise lines back up with the calling. Because I mean, real estate's been going on a long time. It's the oldest written code of ethics for an industry in America is real estate. So it's like, okay, we've known for a long time that this is important. You can mess with people doing it, and we need to do it the right way because if you don't, you get a lot of things that don't turn out well for
Yeah.
anybody.
It is really important. I mean, people don't really understand the history of the NAR and stuff. The reason the NAR was created was to keep the government from taking over the real estate business, right? Because in the early 1900s, you literally would have people set up these fake companies and sell you shares of the Brooklyn Bridge. You've heard people talk about selling the Brooklyn Bridge.
Right.
People really did that, you know, and they would print up fake railroad stocks and fake bridge deeds and all this stuff in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the last Gilded Age. They did all kinds of shady stuff like that. And that's where NAR and the Code of Ethics and all that came out of. Because if the industry didn't get itself under control, the government was absolutely going to take control of it. It was because it was the Wild West.
It was, man. That's those it's funny to watch. History Channel has a good show on the Titans of Industry or the Titans that Build
Yeah,
America.
yeah.
That mark, but it really shows you how shady things were, how weird stuff that they did, that where you have a few people making these huge decisions that are affecting thousands of people over just a grudge. Henry talked bad about me at this meeting, so now I'm going to go mess with
Now I'm
everything.
now yeah, now I'm gonna go print up a bunch of fake shares of your railroad stock and flood the
Exactly.
market.
Yeah, just Wild West kind of stuff. And that's where I do appreciate that. Because again, it all comes back to that professionalism. The folks I know, whether they're realtors or investors that have lasted in the business, they take pride in their work. There's dignity. I heard a really good term, uh, dignity of work. When they realize that what they're doing is important, they put their passion into it, they're aligned with it, and they're able to create a product, a service, whatever it is that actually helps people in the industry, whether it's from a first-time home buyer or an investor buying their 200th house, whatever it is,
Yeah,
it's actually participating in the process where people aren't calling you just because you have the keys. And that was a problem I started seeing with
yeah.
realtors is they just were becoming car salesmen in a way. Like, we only deal with the car salesman to take a test drive. That's it. That's why that we're dealing with them. They're not doing anything for us. So when you're only calling a realtor because they have the keys, man, someone's missing out. Like, you're missing out on a major piece of the puzzle because they're way bigger than that in that process.
That's a so when Ford came out with the new Bronco a few years ago, I'm a Ford guy. I grew up in a four-wheel drive association. My dad used to race a '67 Bronco,
Nice.
dirt drag race, right?
Heck yeah.
Eighth of a mile just throwing gravel, right? So I grew up in that, and so when the new Broncos came out, I was all in. And Ford had this thing because they didn't have any Broncos in the dealership. They couldn't get them here because of supply chain and the demand and everything. So they did this tour where they sent Broncos around the country for you to go test drive them. And so when we test drove the Bronco the first time, it was with a woman who was a professional overland racer who had been driving the truck and really knew it, not a salesperson at all, an expert in off-roading in this vehicle.
Right.
Sold, right?
So
Done.
right.
You know, got that thing in the mud, learned how to use the different features with this somebody who really knew the vehicle. That's a completely different experience than going to the dealership and doing a test drive.
Right.
Agents who are successful are more like that professional overland driver than they are the guy at the showroom.
What a great example. That I mean, truly, because you're talking about someone who's a professional at their craft versus someone just sitting on the lot. And that is, if your agent's just sitting in the office all the time, something's wrong.
Yeah,
They're not supposed to just be at the brokerage all the time. You're supposed to be out and about in the community, understanding what's going on, nose to the ground, because you're the front lines of real estate. I mean, the first thing people think real estate, it's realtor. That's typically what you're thinking in that world. NAR has done a great job as getting that out for the last long time to make sure that it's known that way. However, it's again, it's a real responsibility. And I love
it
folks
is.
who take it that way, that see it for what it is. It's not just someone that's bored and wants something to do. And that's how it feels like a lot of folks get in. It's no,
Yeah.
this is real.
I think a lot of agents get into and they don't know it takes them a long time to figure out their niche. And that's, that lack of focus. And this is an area I think where brokerages fail. You hire these agents in and you don't even really know what they're good at, what they'd be good for. You're just like, go sell a house, go talk to your sphere, right?
Right.
And
Right.
the agents who really succeed, they're agents who do super well with celebrity real estate and investors and first time home buyers. But the ones who are really killing it in any area, you notice they really do focus on that. Like I'll do some first time home buyers. I enjoy doing it, but there are agents in my market, that's all they do. First time home buyer seminars, they know all the grants back and forth. They are 100% all in on first time home buyers. And they may do 100 deals a year, first time home buyers. And yeah, these deals don't pay a whole lot, but when you do 100 of them, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
then there are
You're making
agents who like dabble with investors, but don't really know what they're doing. And then there are teams like ours where we really understand the needs of the investors and really know how to find them deals. So that specialization, I think, is what sets the top agents above. We all can do anything, even commercial in Virginia. If you're in Virginia, you're licensed for residential and commercial. I've never done a commercial deal because I don't know what I'm doing. Right. If I have a commercial deal come my way, I have a commercial agent I work with. Um, but that
someone in the tool belt.
specialization is what sets you apart, being able to provide a different level of service and knowledge.
Agreed. Because I remember meeting my first investor. It was I got started as an agent 2014. I met him in 2017. And it was, I mean, at that point in time, I was kind of just bouncing around doing retail, not really sure what I liked yet. I was realizing, man, I don't like selling 50 people one house. I want to, how can I do this different? How can I wake up more each day on offense to go find, I like having money to spend when I wake up. Whose money can I go spend? And I ended up
Right.
meeting my first investor and was like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is what I was looking for. And it just, the next niche happened. And that's one thing I love about real estate is if you don't like a certain section of it, pivot. Find
Yeah.
that section of it that does align with you and lights you up. And because there's a way to pay that emotional paycheck and the financial one in this industry, you can find it.
I tell you, my first investor that I got with that was of any size, when I first realized they had a $8 million signature line of credit to buy houses, that made me feel pretty good. I was like, oh, we could go really do some business here. you know?
Right. It's powerful. From 2018 to 2020, I was working with a little firm where we represented a hedge fund and
Yeah.
well, a
Yeah.
big one. I had $1 billion to spend every morning I woke up, like literally $1 billion to spend. And I was just like, how can I spend this money? And I was doing this in Jacksonville and Tampa where, man, I printed out this little sheet that literally said, I have $1 billion to spend. Here's what I want to buy. And I went and found investors. I went and found anybody I could. Like, I literally have all this money. Bring me these houses. And I just
Yeah.
started training people on how to sell me that house to a hedge fund. And we
There you
started
go.
moving them at 30 to 50 a month. Just massive amount of movement because, again, what's that part you like? I love my past when I was selling insurance when the Great Recession hit, and I was a young guy at the time, and it hit me really hard. And I sometimes I wish I would have stayed in. I got out, but I didn't really need to, as I reflected later on in life. Uh,
Yeah.
we all grow up. However, that taught me there was a certain kind of person I liked. I love business owners. I like working with them. I like being one. I just love that kind of performer. And I just, as I was in real estate, started shifting. I found that person again. I was like, oh, here we go. These are the people I like to talk to. Because then anyways, I could go on for that forever. But
Well, they're so focused on the mission, right? It's,
right,
you know,
right.
I don't I don't enjoy people getting distraught and overly emotional in a business situation, right? And in real estate, you do get this. I have had, I've been in those rooms where people are crying and yelling at each other because a deal's coming apart. That's not fun for me. I don't want to do
No,
that. I don't want to be in that situation. And sometimes in retail, you just can't avoid it. Things just,
right.
the other side does something that you couldn't see coming and it's a mess, you know? And with the business people, you don't really have that. They're not emotionally attached. Does it pencil? Great. Let's close.
Exactly. Exactly. It becomes when it becomes like once it's just a math problem, then the people and relationships get easier. That's what I learned. Like
Yeah.
now you just need to manage this part and then keep bringing them quality and you're going to do just fine. And
Yeah.
like
And
you
the
said,
level of efficiency goes through the roof.
now you got a process. Now you got a system. Now you can actually scale. Right. It's no longer hope pulling you along. Like I said, hope ain't a strategy. You actually have one. You're waking up each day knowing, I know what I'm doing today. I call them activities of daily living. I know what I have to do when I wake up today. As long as I do that, that's moving the ball forward everywhere. I don't need to get stressed out about anything else because it's all backfilled into here's what we do today. Get that done. That sets up what we're going to do tomorrow. And just get it done, get it done, get it done. You look up 5 years later, man, you actually pulled off what you were trying to.
If I have so I have a certain amount of time I take off each week or each year for industry events, vacation, and corporate planning and management, right? We do a retreat, we do a war room. I go to the Summit Mastermind, I go to Inman Luxury. I take 4 weeks of vacation, right? So I'm basically working 43 weeks a year. If I make if I have 8 real estate conversations 5 days a week, I'm gonna sell 43 houses. Done. I mean, know your
So simple.
numbers. Yeah.
Exactly. What are your numbers? That's get literally getting it down to that. Your whole mindset changes. The stress goes away. You start to realize, okay, this is actually doable, right? You start to see, how to eat an elephant. It's one bite at a time.
If
You
I
just,
if I get up and make my phone calls, like, earlier this week, so I was just you may have noticed my voice is a little off. I was actually in the emergency room Sunday night.
oh
Uh,
goodness,
I di
man.
I didn't get my flu shot this year, and I paid the price. Um, so so this past week is one of my reset weeks for the year. So, I have my pipeline in my CRM. It was down about $4 million from where it was last year. I'm down to about a 20, it was about a $20 million pipeline. So I went into my database and I went line by line, looking at everybody to see if there was anything I hadn't followed up on, anything I'd missed. And I went back and I just started calling people. Hey, you still thinking about moving? Hey, did you ever sell that house? And I went back and I found $8 million in potential sales to put back into my pipeline. Right. So if I get up every day and I make my calls, I'm going to make a $500,000 this year. I don't have to worry about it. I know it's going to happen because I know my numbers. I know what it takes to make that money. I know what I made last year. I know how I did it. I know where I could have made more. So it's easy to know what to add this year. And that's the thing at the end of every year, as the year's winding down, I look at what has worked and what has not. And I don't fall in love with ideas of how to grow my business until
Mm,
they work. Once they work, I'm in love with them. Until
right.
then, they're just an experiment. And if it doesn't work, I throw it out.
Right. It lines up with so many entrepreneurs have just created stuff the market doesn't want
Yeah.
and put all in on it for nobody wants this. Make sure someone wants it and it works before you scale it, because that's
Yeah.
the we get ourselves into that mix up. Well, Coach, I got to wind it down here. I really
Sure.
appreciated our conversation today and our time together. For those that are listening and watching that be interested in learning more from you, understanding more about what you got going on, what's the best way for them to find you?
Easiest thing to do is just hit me up on Instagram. It's at Coach_Drew757. Coach Drew 757. I'm Coach Drew. I'm in the 757.
Love that. If you're listening in, make sure to check the show notes. We'll have Coach Drew's link there. Follow along. I highly recommend following people who are doing business the right way, who are out there actually creating something that's sustainable, process driven, system driven, and that's what makes it scalable. So, again, Coach, thanks for being on with us today. For
Thanks,
all
man.
you listening out there, if you got value out of today's episode, please like this episode, share it with somebody else you think could get value out of it, pass it along. As always, please don't forget to subscribe. We appreciate every single one of you that's following along out there with us. We've got more conversations coming up with operators just like Coach Drew, who are out there building a real business in the industry. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.